Hi everybody, welcome back to Spruverse, my scale model universe. People of Earth, another update on the 1.350 redo, and we are sort of focusing on some other detail work right now. But I thought rather than say, look what I've done, we get in the weeds a little bit on Windows. I've got a whole bunch of parts drying, so in this episode we're going to jump around quite a bit, but I'm going to try and show you my progress as I'm progressing. If that made any sense to any of you. It barely made sense to me. Okay, so I on the previous Enterprise had talked about these laser cut windows, and I had forgotten to put them in the neck of the previous incarnation. Now I do like these windows. They have a very tight fit, and the beauty of them is they're cut with the paper still on both sides. Now you do have to remove one side, obviously, the side that's in, because you'll forget and you won't get any light out of them. But they are microscopic. Take a look. Let me put my hand behind it and you can see. Here it is. They are microscopic, and they've got paper on both sides, as you can see. That's a good look. And what I'm doing is I'm actually currently putting them in the neck of this thing. Now this takes a lot of time, and you do have to be a professional shoe repairer, cobbler. The jokes don't come out very well, I'm sorry. But anyway, so take a look. Let's take a down look here. And you can see the plugs where I've actually put them in, and I've left the covers on them. There's no better way to mask this. I mean, it'll be super crisp. And of course, when you stick a light through the ones that are open, you get this really, you can see, well, let me, of course you can't, but you can see the one that is at the very end here that's really blooming. That's the one that has the crystal in it. Now, they are perhaps a little too clear, but in some places, I'm not going to do it everywhere, where you want a little pop of light, it makes a difference. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and use the kit supplied windows where I need to, and they're going to be fine, because I want to diffuse the light in them anyway. They shouldn't be super bright, because it just doesn't look right to me. It looks out of scale, and it just doesn't look normal. But where you want little pins of light, now especially when you perhaps don't have a light source that's close to them, it really is super reflective, and you'll get a little more gain out of it. So I'm just putting them in the neck, and the way you do that is they are cut pretty darn close, and they're nice and tight, so they don't need any glue. You could certainly use glue if you wanted to, but they're not coming out. And then I use here I use a file, and I just sort of widen them just a little bit. And then what I do is I put it down on the bench, and I take the window, I drop it into the hole like such. Try to get it straight up and down. You do have to fight with it a little bit. There, that one went in. And then you just tap them. If they don't go all the way, you can use the butt side of something, and that's it. And then of course flip it over and make sure you remove this little brown cover from the back, and this is the exact same one that's on the front, and it is, there it is, it's off. So they are all in. Now, occasionally you will lose one. Like I lost the cover to this one here, but I'm going to go ahead and put one of Lou's masks on here and I'll be fine. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing windows on the neck. I've cleaned out the front for the phaser array here. And I do have a printed aftermarket part because it's got pre-drilled holes for those lights, and that will make a difference because it just makes it a lot easier for me to mount. The less time I have to spend trying to find places to actually mount these LEDs when I can, it's best that you do. Okay, so that's progressing. That won't take me too much longer. There's only a few to, there's not that many in the neck. So I'm going to bang through that. Last time I promised you I would show you this mount and I didn't. So here it is. It is in there. And now there's a couple of advantages to this. When you're painting it or holding it or working on it, this makes a great handle. You do need a vise up and down on your bench, nice and solid. You can put it in. But if you've got something like that, I'm telling you, it's just a world of difference. You don't have to put it on its base. You don't have to get the base dirty. Last time I kept getting the base dirty because I would put it on to see what it was looking like and checking the wiring. I don't have to do any of that with this setup, so it's a lot better. And inside, you can see, there I am, and I've been epoxied in, and that had 24 hours to set up, so it's rock solid. And so this is basically ready to go. I'm going to start putting my lighting in here, and I'm also going to, obviously I have to get the windows in for the Arboretum. I have to set the Arboretum in its place. But of course, the difficulty with that is that all of the wires that come out of the base and into the secondary hull are going to be under the Arboretum itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chew out a channel right here. Let me get my fat fingers out the way, and I'm going to create a little channel here, and I'm going to put all my wiring harness in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, before I do any of that, I'm going to connect each and every one of my leads. Now, let me get this back in its harness here for a second and explain that to you. So I showed you my mini printer last time. I'm going to print out all my labels, but I'm going to get this, essentially every one of these wires I'm going to start connecting, and I'm going to start labeling them and bringing them up through here to the harness. And the way I'll do that is I'll just get my umbilical cord of cable. That's here, look. We showed you that last time. And then I will mark each and every one of them. So that'll come out of here. And essentially what it'll do is it'll just live like this. And everything will connect to that. And it'll all be labeled. And so all I have to do is make my connections here. And then I know they will go into the base. Okay? Now, simo to that, because, life is never that easy, which is why, by the way, that Trek Modeler harness made a lot of sense. Because what you'll have to do is you'll realize that when you are working with this, some of these leads jump to other connectors. So in the instructions, for instance, it'll say C1 orange connects to the blue of C4 or whatever it does, right? So those all have to be jumped. And so, you know, you've got to make sure that you maintain absolute control of your wiring schematic and how you're doing it. Now, I don't have a lot of wiring experience. In fact, if some of you have been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I know how to blow an Arduino board. So, and I've shorted my fair share of lights in my time. And so, you know, it's just making sure that everything is grounded correctly, everything is insulated properly, and it's well soldered, and you triple check your work, and then you'll be fine. But it is important. The other thing too is there are some leads that are going to go directly to power. So I do have that set up in my base, and we'll show you that at another time. But that's just another additional thing you have to think about. Okay, so we've talked about this stand. I'm happy with it. We're looking at Windows, which I'm putting in now. I'm going to continue to do that. And then I can actually light this neck. There's no reason why I can't get all the lights in the neck. So I'll do that as well. And perhaps we'll test that. We'll take a look. And then I'm just going to bounce around. So we'll just sort of progressively go through what I'm working on as I work on it. You know, that's one of the advantages of having done this before and recently, is you do become a little more comfortable with where things go and how things have to go together, and so that is helpful. Okay, so I'm glad everybody's with me for this update, and I'll come back in just a nanosecond with some more to show you. Okay, but for me it might be 3 or 4 hours, but for you it'll just be a nanosecond, and we'll see what progression I make. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, preparation, it makes all the difference in the world. But I don't mind telling you, it is absolutely a labor of love. But I'm enjoying myself. I'm not. I've had a couple of bumps in the road, and I'll talk about those. But for the most part, I'm having a good time. I'm feeling good about myself, and you know, I don't have that feeling I had the first time I did this kit. I feel a lot more confident. But anyway, to say that this kit is a tremendous amount of work is an understatement. But you know, if you're prepped and you've got a plan, you should be okay. So I have to say, I've been doing my research and sort of trying to figure out what it is that I want to do that's slightly different from what I did the first time. Now, what's interesting is I want to show you something because I think it's important. So now, with the Trek Modeler plug and play kit, you get some pretty detailed instructions, and they were very helpful for me just in terms of learning the location of all of your lights. But I want to show you something because I think it's very interesting, and I copied this to a T. Okay, copied it to a T. Here it is, and if you'll notice, this is the top of your saucer. Okay, so you've got, it wants you to put a long strip on both sides, 2 smaller strips in the center, 2 very small strips at the back. One is obviously for the rec deck, and one is for the other windows on the other side of the impulse engines, and then a long strip in the very front. And that is supposed to give you a decent amount of coverage for your lighting kit, for your lights, okay? It didn't work for me. I found my lights to be dim. Now, I don't want them super punchy, obviously, because that's not realistic. I want just a nice warm tone that if a light is on in a cabin or if a light is on in a certain part of the ship, I want it to feel like it's a work environment, not just a blazing pin of light, because that doesn't look real. But this did not do either of those things. It was really, really, really dim. And I had even used some of my metal, tape here to add additional reflection. And of course, everything on the inside is painted white after it's light blocked. So I should have gotten some bounce. Now, granted, I did not put my windows in. Didn't bother because I was under the impression that I could just go about my business and make that the very last thing I do, so they were nice and clean. But a certain amount of primer did and paint obviously got through those windows, and it either fogged the lights or it affected the lights. I don't know. But I'm not doing that this time. I'm going to make sure my windows are in and they are masked. But I thought it was interesting to talk about that. Now, because the Tenor Controls kit only gives you a schematic for what the lights are for. It doesn't tell you where to put them, except it does give you one page that identifies, and here it is, it identifies where your LEDs are going to go for your navs, right? So your red and green navs, where your strobes go, your strobe for your AB deck, and your nav lights, and of course the rear lights on the nacelles. And then in the bottom, you've got one strobe, and you've got two navs and one white running light in the bottom. And that's the extent to which they give you light locations. Do I wish they went a little further? Yeah, I guess. Had I have never done this kit before, it would have been a bit of a head scratcher for me. And if you are not a sort of really comfortable, if you're not really comfortable with lighting, it's a challenge. Now, I feel relatively comfortable that I'm competent enough that I can follow these schematics, which are really, really easy to follow. But again, I'm thinking through the first time around and going, that light was too bright, or this light was too dim, or I could have done a better job angling it. Examples would be the pylon lights. I should have done and could have done a better job getting that angle right, so you get that updraft on the pylon. You really want that. Now, I did get some of it, but I didn't get all of it. So this time around, I'm going to be doing that. So anyway, I am in the process of breaking down my SMD strip lighting to determine where things go. But I'm going to make absolutely triple sure that I get my strips now a lot closer to my windows, a lot closer. And I may even break them up. I won't have long strips. I might even have, smaller strips and get them up to every single window, because I think that is going to make a difference. And I am diffusing my windows. I'm not having them crystal clear except where I need them to be, which is the Arboretum, which is the Officers Lounge, those are the two. Officers Lounge, Arboretum, and Rec Deck. If you're going to put something inside your rec, you're going to put a rec deck in there. But those rec deck windows are so ridiculously small. Once you have actually put your photo etch in that comes with your 1/350 refit photo etch sheet, it shrinks those windows even more, and you just can't see anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just frost those out. I'm not going to worry about them, because it just, you don't need to. I've got enough eye candy between my shuttle bay, which I'm really super happy with, and I'm going to keep that lighting very dramatic. I don't need it lit up like a Christmas tree. And obviously I am doing the officer's lounge, which I've done and I've completed, and of course my arboretum. So the other thing I wanted to just update you on is where we are here with this thing of genius. I'm going to take it off its stand, and I'm going to be really kind of careful with it. So let me show you. Look at this. So I've got my arboretum windows in and drying, so I'm going to be very, very careful with those. I'm going to let them dry completely overnight. I have got now all of the wire for my 5 connection points on my board. So the way I did this was I actually took each connecting point on my board. Here's my board, and each connecting point has 8 wires. They're all the same. They go black, red, purple, blue, green, orange, white, and yeah, that's it. Did I get 8? Yellow. So green, yellow, orange, white, black, blue, red, purple. Those are your 8, right? And each one of those bundles I've separated here. So I've got 5 bundles, each one marked, so I know which bundle is for which connection point, right? I've got 1 through 5 all here, and they're in a bag here. This will go into the base, obviously. And the idea here is that all the connections from every aspect of the ship, from the nacelles down, from the saucer down, and everything in the secondary hull it'll terminate in the front here. But this is the extent of it. So the amount of wire now that comes down is not a lot, because a lot of the connections they're in line. So you're connecting, for instance, your saucer lights all get connected together. So you've got one set of leads coming out. Your nacelles have 3, I believe. But anyway, by the time you've added up all of the combinations and you've brought them down here, you're only adding another 8 or 9 leads, and this wire is very thin. So not even close to the rat's nest I had with the plug and play. Now, please don't get me wrong. This is not the object of this exercise is to compare and contrast for those of you who are thinking about which way you might want to go if you want to light your ship. Some of you who are a lot smarter than me will just go about your business, like the great Wayne Green over at Walter Wayne, who's building one of these, and he's putting his through an Arduino. He's doing it all himself, and he knows how to do that. And if you do know how to do that, knock yourself out. But I wanted something that was a little more just a little more thought out for me. Even though this Tenor Controls setup requires a lot of prep, but well worth it. So the point I'm making here is that everything will terminate out through the sensor dish here, and then it will get wound up and pushed back in, and then the sensor dish I will attach this time, thanks to the great Lou Del Meso, taught me to attach this sensor dish with PVA glue. And so you do get a pretty decent bond, but if you ever need to get in here, because there's one of two places that you're going to have a short, in my opinion, a really bad short. It's going to be here in this part of the world, right? Or it's going to be or it's going to be in the base. So I feel pretty good that if something goes bad, I have a relatively decent chance of figuring it out, because if it is a short in here, for instance, I know exactly, because everything is labeled, I know exactly which connector goes to which, and I can just follow it on Ralph from Tenor Controls' schematics. And so I have a good chance of repairing something. Now, I've already had an issue. I was putting in my rear red navigation help lights for the back of the tail of the shuttle bay. This piece here, and there are these little red lights that go in the top. There's 3 of them. And one of them had shorted out, and it's because when I was prepping my lights, one of my resistor just, it separated from its attached solder point, and I worked pretty good to make those really solid, and but it happens, and so that's the heartbreaker. Is you go to all this trouble, and once it's sealed up, something like that, unless you're prepared to break it off and look inside, it's never going to work again. So you got to make extra time for stuff like that. Okay, so all my windows are in. Very happy with those. You can see as I'm running my flashlight down, everything is nice and bright, but it is all diffused. And that's a deliberate choice on my part. I used my light curing putty, which it's frosted, but when you hit it with a light, it does a really nice job. I'm looking at it here, and let me see if I can get you a little closer to show you what I'm talking about here. Yeah, there we go. So I think you'll agree they give you a really nice warm glow, and it doesn't look so outrageous, right? It looks pretty good. So I'm super happy with that. Let me put this back on the stand, because I don't, I need to let my windows dry, and they are not dry, and I will knock something out. Okay, so windows are in on the secondary hull, except for my pylon lights, which I can't do anything about while those windows are drying. So what I'm going to do is just let everything dry here, and then I'm going to get in there with a drill, and I'm going to angle these correctly and make sure that I get plenty of light up the exterior and the interior of my pylons. So those are the only holes that aren't sealed up yet, and they don't have lights in them. Arboretum is ready to go, and so is the shuttle bay ready to go. So once these windows are dry, I'm going to finish the lighting for the secondary hull, get the pylon lights in, and also the nav strobe on the bottom of the ship. There's 2. There's one down at the tail of the Enterprise, and there's one that's actually just in front of my post, and that completes the secondary hull lighting setup. Then I'll go into my saucer. Now my saucer is ready to go. Everything is clean and finished on the outside. So I've got my 2 halves. So those are ready to receive lighting. And then it's just a function of sort of taking each section one at a time. I'm still working on it in my head in 3 sections, right? Pylons, my pylons and the secondary hull and the neck are 1, nacelles 2, and saucer 3. But newsflash, I am strongly considering once all the lighting is in and everything is done, is sealing everything up and then painting it. What do you think about that? It will make it incredibly difficult to do your Aztecing work. It's a lot easier when it can be on the bench in front of you, but there are some pros that may outweigh the cons, which is better ability to putty everything up and get it all clean and finished before you start putting on your base coat, right? So you get all of that. Easier ability to get into places to tape and stuff. Because it's all sealed, you don't have to worry about anything like that, and you'll see all of your light leaks before you actually have to start painting. Because the painting, once you get that first and second coat on this thing, it does start to improve the light leak situation. I'm just thinking about it as we, as I record this update. I'm just thinking about it. I'm not sold on it yet because I have to think about how difficult it is. I know how hard it was to actually do the Aztecing on this thing. I could actually just Aztec it, do the basic Aztecing, and then seal it all up, and then do the finish pearlescent paints. I could certainly do that, and that would be a lot easier to do. Don't know. Thinking about it. Again, this is all about the fact that I have all of this existing knowledge in my head, right? And I'm going through the pros and the cons. But there you go. So that is the update for this section. I'm going to do one more section in this update, and I think what that will be is just showing you the secondary hull with the arboretum in, the shuttle bay in, and perhaps we'll even do a basic light test to make sure everything is going, and that will complete this update, I think. So we'll do one more section, but anyway, lots of progress. And I don't want to I don't want to sort of misconstrue what I'm doing here. I'm able to sit here for sometimes 8 to 12 hours a day. Some of you will only get a couple of hours, and so it's going to take you a lot longer than it is going to take me, and that's a good thing. Do not rush this. Take your time, and even I have to get up and walk away and realize things have to dry properly, and you need sometimes to just to sort of catch up and think about something. So anyway, we'll see you in the next section. If I really stopped to think about what I was doing, I don't think I'd be doing it. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So, when I end a segment and I say, so in the next segment, I think we're going to be turning all the lights on, testing it, and flying it around the universe, I really sometimes don't have any concept of time and what it really honestly takes to get this in shape and do it right. So I'm gonna make a promise from now going forward that I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm just gonna just keep plowing on, and when I feel like when I feel like we have enough of an update, I'm just gonna share it with you, because it's a lot of work. Okay, so wanted to bring you back though, because I've been pondering something. And it's interesting. So, okay. When I, as you know, started making my list of things I wanted to improve on, I found that my lighting setup for the secondary hull was underwhelming. Now, we don't want high intensity pins of light, but I do want a nice warm, even kind of glow everywhere so it feels like it's alive and that it's on. So having said that, what's interesting is that the sort of typical way, I would say, that light gets put into the model is typically we're taking a strip light, and this is what Ralph gives you. So, and we're running them along both sides like this at the top. Do you see? However, when you put your shuttle bay in, and I'm going to just sort of plonk this in here for now because I'm not... Okay, when you plonk it in like that, now all of a sudden, you're not gonna, that light over here that you're putting over here to send light over here has an it's fighting with your shuttle bay on both sides. So what I'm going to do for this particular trip around the universe is, by the way, before I go any further, I just wanted to share with you how nuts this is getting. So I'm labeling everything as I go, so I know, you know, it's not going to be a problem. I mean, I'm just going to drop everything down, and I'll know exactly where it belongs on this board. But it's an awful lot of prep to get there. But anyway, so what I'm going to do this. Let me get this back in its little stand here and make sure that I'm good to go and not pinching anything. Okay, what I'm going to do, I think, this time around is I'm going to put my lights, I'm going to put them on the shuttle bay itself. Right about there-ish. And that should give me the light that I need. Now, I'm not going to cover the windows because I'm going to try and get some bounce inside. I want it to be almost negligible, but I do want some bounce through those windows because I think it'll be interesting. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put those lights on here, and I'm also going to install some tape just to get some bounce on the lower lights. I may even add one more. In fact, I probably will add one more strip. I think one more strip. I don't know, because it's interesting when you plonk this in. When you plonk this in. Oh, sorry, that's my little Nimbus printer turning off. I love that thing. When you drop this in, as I said, you know, you lose an awful lot of light. Now, I could put some tape on here and then get bounce the other way. But I think the best way to do this is to point the light back out at the ship and not in. I think. On the other hand, as we're thinking, I suppose you could add a couple of strips to the top of this, but in doing so, I think you're going to get too much intense light going down for no reason. I don't think that's going to be very helpful. So most likely I'm going to stick with my plan, I think, because because I think that's going to work. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to drop this in, and I'm going to just drop it in, and I'm going to do a test. I'm not going to glue anything in. I'm just going to do a test, and I'll lightly attach these and see what that looks like. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Well, that was fun. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I have got all my Aztec Dummy paint masks on my windows, and I have tested all my lights individually, so everything is working. I haven't shown you that yet, but don't worry, you haven't missed anything, because as soon as I hook one section up to the board, we'll take a look. But as you can appreciate, I've got way too much wire here, but that's just me. Everybody is different the way they work. Me personally, I like to have more, just simply because I have in the past had not enough, and I'd rather be able to cut it back than try to find it, because if you have to add wire, that's just another connection that is asking for trouble. It could short or could do anything else like that. So I'm always a little long, but everything is tagged. And so basically, as it comes down, I'm tagging each set of wires so I know where everything goes. It's very clear on Ralph's instructions where things go. Remember, there are 5 connection points on this Bluetooth board. And each connector has 8 wires. That's 40 wires. But that gets reduced down, of course, because several of the connections you just you tie together. So that 40 is probably going to be about 25, 28 by the time I'm done. Very manageable. And so everything is in. The only thing I missed, and I goofed, is on the fantail there are 2 blue lights that need to connect to those little grids on the left and right side of the fantail canopy connector here. And so I'm gonna drop those in now. I'm not worried about it because I've got plenty of room. So I'm just gonna feed those through when I glue on the fantail, which I'm gonna do as soon as it dries. I've hit it with a little coat of the Insignia White, which is my base coat for this model. And then once it is on and glued in, I'll blend it in with the white and everything else. But that's what I'll do now. And then, of course, the roof is all finished as well, and I'm super happy with that. Now, the one thing I am very proud of and very pleased with is the fit here. On my last one, the fit was terrible. Now, fit's not great, period, but the fit here is really good because I think it makes a difference when you glue the parts together. Now, it makes it harder. It's a bit of a struggle to get everything in, but you know, you're hitting everything with the MEK. Give it a week to really melt together and bond. It is rock solid and it's clean, and those joints look beautiful. I didn't have that in the last time. Last time I had everything, you know, pre-primed, and it really is not. I think it can weaken it. It can potentially weaken it. And any paint you have on any surface that you haven't cleaned perfectly, that is supposed to be a joint, even a fraction of a millimeter will screw it up. Will absolutely screw up these connectors. So don't do it if you don't have to. Okay, so that is basically all there is to the secondary hull. It's all pretty much together and contained. So that's pretty exciting. I'm happy about that. Next update, we're gonna do the saucer in the next update, and that'll just be getting that lit. So it's all together. It's been primed. It's been sanded. So that's pretty good. The only other thing I wanted to say, just a tip that I learned, is don't put your photo etch airlocks on until your final pass on your paint before you Aztec. I'll tell you why. Because if they're on too soon, you start to lose detail on them. The more they're primed and the more they are the more they're painted over. At least that's what I've discovered. A lot of you are already going to know that. Of course I didn't. So I've learned my lesson. Do not put my photo etch in until my last pass. They're going to get clear coated anyway, so they'll be fine. But that way I guarantee that I've got some preservation of my details. Okay? All right. So I think that's it for this update. Awful lot going on, but I feel like we've got to a point now where we can set this aside. Now I'm still contemplating whether or not I paint this in sections or whether or not I build this ship as one unit, paint it all, get all the seam work done, and then do my Aztecing. Now it's going to be a little trickier because of my rod. And some people have written to me and said, well, cut that in half, that rod, it's too much. It's like, no, I actually like it this high off the ground, because if you think about it, about an inch of this is going to go into the base, so it's not an awful lot, and you want it to be up high enough that people can look all the way around it. If it's too low, then you're doing this to kind of look underneath, and I don't want to do it with this model. It deserves to be up as high as it can possibly be. Unless, of course, you're in Wayne Green's house and it won't be up that high because it'll never see the top of the television set. I'm just teasing. Okay. So that is it for this update. As I said, next update, we'll dive into the saucer. Thank you for continuing to support me and follow me on the channel. I post every day on my Instagram account at Spruverse. Drop me a line. I'm spruverse@gmail.com. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like my content. Please subscribe if you haven't. Click the bell if you want updates on my next video. Other than that, hey, I wish all of you, please, be well, be safe, build something. Come on, build something. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.